Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever you are in the world or whatever time you are watching this video. Oh, welcome to my morning commute. Welcome to my morning commute. It's another lovely morning. Well, it's after 8. And I'm hoping that the traffic won't be too crazy this morning, because I have a very long commute. So I have an hour commute to work. So, what can we talk about this morning? There is so much happening today. Well, I just did a video about today being election day in the United States, and the fact that I hadn't been to the States voluntarily for quite a number of years, because I'm nice and comfy right here in Canada. And being in Canada is a lovely place to be. And I'm just happy that I made my decision years ago that I wanted to come to Canada. And although there's a lot happening in Canada in the news in terms of immigration and the whole process. And how I look at it, there's a lot of talk about persons who come here, basically, back door. Well, I don't want to say it's a back door, because Canada has its programs in which you can come here. So various programs, you can come here on a student visa or a temporary work visa, and they give you the option that there is a possibility of becoming a resident after completing your studies or completing temporary work. So you did enter through the front door, so I wouldn't really necessarily call it a back door. And that was one of my doors. Well, one of those programs is the door that I stepped through to coming to Canada and eventually becoming a Canadian citizen. And my journey began as an international student. So when I see a lot of the stories and all the controversy that's going around today around international students and the whole backlash and a lot of problems that they're having, I don't have a problem if you come to Canada as an international student, and while you're here, you fall in love with the place. You get the opportunity after you study. You get the opportunity to join the Canadian workforce for a period of time. And then once you've satisfied certain requirements, if you so wish, you can apply for Canadian permanent residence, or you can return to your home. So those are the programs that are there. So a lot of times when I see people are saying, well, you came here to go to school, so go to school and go home, it's not really that cut and dry. I get it if people only come here to say, they come here because they want to be here permanent, but they just use a school route, so they're not being really legitimate in why they're coming here. And then when they do shady stuff to get to that point, well, that is where I have a problem with. Because when I was coming here as an international student, all the information that is needed can be found on the CIC website. It has everything, and you can also find a checklist for any program that you want to enter into Canada on, whether a visitor be a visitor, a student, a temporary worker, permanent resident, whatever it is that interests you, the information can be found on the CIC website. So I did my research before I came to Canada, and I wanted to do something different with my life, and the school program here, I said I would try the school program here in Canada. So I did my research to see what I needed and what I could expect. So I was interested in the human resource degree program here in Canada, and upon doing my research, so I researched universities, and when I looked up the fees, I noticed that for an international student to study at the time, I did my research from I came to Canada, almost 20 years ago. But then some stuff have changed, but the basics haven't changed, right? And when I checked online, they gave you the breakdown. So if you're going to be studying at a university, it gave you the tuition for each year. So it says if you're going to be here as an international student, you're going to need X amount of money, right? So it spells it out for you. If you're going to be living with relatives, they scrap the living expenses from your total amount. So when I had checked, it was to live with a relative while going to university. At the time, 20 years ago, they told you that yearly it would be about $16,000, and that would be a 4-year program. So when you look at that, that is practically 50 grand, right? So that's tuition and books, and then you have to factor in transportation, depends on where you are going to live, and you're going to need little amenities and lunch money and stuff. And then when I looked at that, I'm like, yeah, I don't think so. If I had 50 grand, I'll just maybe stay home and finish school back home. But then I looked at the college requirements, and in Canada, colleges are less expensive than university. I don't know why, if it's the same. But in the college, you would have college here in Canada, you get an advanced diploma. So an advanced diploma would be eligible or would be comparable to an associate's degree, say in the United States or in Jamaica. So, well, maybe that's why it's cheaper. So when I look at it, so I did my research to say, okay, for college, if I was going to be staying with, someone while I attended school, what the tuition would be. And at the time it was for the human resource program, it was $10,500 per year, and it was a 3-year program. So then 30,000 and change. So, but if you're going to be living on your own, then it was a lot more money. So luckily for me, I had relatives, or I have relatives here. So what I did, I went again. All this information is on the website. So I researched to say, okay, if I'm going to be staying with relatives, what did I need? And it listed everything that I needed that you first of all, to come as an international student, you have no loans or grants or anything like that to get from the Canadian government. So whatever tuition fee you have to pay all your expenses. Okay, so if it's $10, $20, $30,000, you have to pay all your expenses, as well as when you're applying for the student visa, you need to show that you have the money in your account to fund living in Canada. So if you're coming here as to study at a college for 3 years, you have, and at the time it was 10,500, so 3 years, so that's 30, so round it up to $32,000 Canadian. So if you're going to come here and study for 3 years, you have to show them that you have at least that $32,200 in your bank account. So they know that, okay, you'll be living with relatives or whatever, but you have to show that you can cover your tuition, your full tuition while you're here. That's one of the requirements. If you're going to be living with, relatives or friends, you had to, or I had to get a letter from whom I was staying with to say that yes, they know me, what the relationship was, and that they opened their home to me to study for X period of time, and they will provide food and shelter for me. They also had to submit their job letters and the tax information to show that they're working, they pay their taxes, and they're in good standing with the Canadian government. They're not on any government assistance or anything like that. To show job letter to show that they are gainfully employed and all of that. So I had to submit all of that information with my application for a student visa. So this is also after applying to college and getting the acceptance letter from college or university. So you gather all those documents and you submit them. And it is this information that the immigration officers or the consulars are going to use to decide whether to grant you student visa, yes or no. So you have to satisfy all those requirements. And again, all the information is on the website, right? And there is also a checklist for each of these programs that you're applying under. So you follow the checklist to say, okay, do I have this? Do I have this information? It's all there. So I applied, submitted all my documentation, and then I was granted my student visa, and I came here to study. So this is where I'm going to end part 1 of my journey. Next time I will talk about when I came to Canada to live, starting school, getting a part-time job, and starting life in Canada, moving from a tropical country to a four-season country. And while I have visited the United States, I've stayed there in wintertime, I've experienced snow and all of that, I will tell you in my next video my journey and living through my first winter in Canada. So see you on the next video.